Minister for Justice Jim O'Callaghan certainly seems to want to be seen tackling the high immigration numbers, doesn't he? He has made multiple posts on Twitter regarding deportation flights, has seemingly realised that the costs involved in housing asylum seekers is too high, and is apparently the fault of the accommodation suppliers profiteering during a crisis, and has now come up with a solution to help ease the congestion in the international protection system. The new plan will see individual applicants offered €2,500 up from €1,200 and families offered up to €10,000 up from €2,000 if they drop their asylum claims and return home. This grant is to incentivize asylum seekers leaving voluntarily and is offered to support people to re-establish themselves, access education, or set up a small business when they return home. It can only be availed of once, and this higher level of grant will only be available to those in the process before 28th of September 2025. It will not be available to those who apply after this date. I mean, the optics are pretty terrible here, right? Anyone should be able to see that. Even though it's €2,500 per individual, it's the headline figure of €10,000 that will stick in people's minds. And it's not hard to understand why most find it hard to justify, especially when that money could be better spent elsewhere. The proposal is intended to incentivize people who may not have a valid claim for international protection or asylum to leave the state voluntarily. Now, this is where I really have issues. We know from both the head of the Garda National Immigration Bureau and on Taoiseach Micheál Martin that the vast majority of asylum seekers entering the country are economic migrants. What that means in reality is that the majority of those applying for international protection are not entitled to do so. So we are now rewarding people who are abusing a system that is meant for the most vulnerable of people. And make no mistake, the right to claim asylum is an extremely important right. For all the problems Ireland has, of which they are many and varied, and I should know I talk about them enough, there are worse places we could be. Take Afghanistan, for example. Right now, under Taliban rule, women cannot even speak in public. They have been banned from education. They are not even allowed to train to become midwives, and they're not allowed to see male doctors where there are no female doctors available. And that's just the headline oppressive and misogynistic rules. There are many more besides. If that's not persecution simply for being, then I don't know what is. The women and their children in Afghanistan are exactly the type of people the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights refer to when it comes to Article 14 and the 1951 Refugee Convention. And I'd like to think that in a caring world, every country that could would take them in and help them. This is what the asylum process should be for, helping those who need it. So if a woman and her children from Afghanistan ended up in Ireland seeking asylum, even if she was unsure that she would be believed, do you really think she would take the 10 grand and head on back to Afghanistan to re-establish herself, access education, or set up a small business? Not bloody likely. No, those who are truly seeking asylum, those who are genuinely fleeing persecution in their home countries, would not take this money, even if they are fearful that they would not be believed. So it begs the question, who will take the money? Well, according to Micheál Martin, it's for those who are seeking asylum but in their heart of hearts know that they are not going to receive it. It could be economic migrants or whatever. And there we have it, the conflation of economic migrants and asylum seekers coming home to roost. Every single Irish person who has left Ireland to try to make a better life abroad has been an economic migrant. None have been asylum seekers because despite the shit show that is our country, no one is persecuted or fleeing conflict now, are they? So Irish people moving abroad are considered economic migrants, as they should be. And as economic migrants, they can't just rock up to a country of their choosing and expect to be let in. They must follow the appropriate laws and apply for visas and work permits where necessary at the full discretion of the potential host country. And if that country says no and they go anyway, well, they're breaking the law. And if an Irish person tried to claim asylum in any country in order to bypass the immigration laws, they'd be rightly laughed back onto a plane and told to fuck off. And yet, our solution to economic migrants coming here and clogging up the international protection process, a process that should be reserved for those genuinely in need, is to offer them a great deal of money to leave? Make it make sense. We have government figures like Finance Minister Paschal Donohoe saying that these allowances could be a way to make the immigration system more efficient. No, Paschal, all this does is create a pull factor, because while these allowances are only available to people in the system before 28th of September 2025 as a way to ease the current pressure on the international protection system, who's to say that if they're deemed effective, that these measures won't be extended or reintroduced when pressure builds again? Builds again, perhaps due to the offer of this money in the first place. Social Democrats TD Gary Gannon criticised the measure, but not just for the logical reasons you might think. While he is right in saying that it won't fix the backlog, the accommodation crisis, or the appeals logjam, he's quite wrong in labelling it a right-wing dog whistle. He said that this plan is designed to undermine the credibility of people in the asylum system, to give the impression they are here for cash rather than safety. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, but if you are genuinely fleeing persecution, you're not going to take the money. Anyone who does take the money clearly is not altogether that fearful for their safety or their lives now, are they? As I said earlier, money isn't going to help that woman from Afghanistan buy her way out of oppression from the Taliban. To call the black and white realities of the situation a far-right dog whistle is just virtue signalling in the extreme. The part that a lot on the left seem to miss is that by conflating genuine asylum seekers with economic migrants, you are turning away others on the left who engage their brain and use critical thinking. And by conflating those two distinct groups, you are actually doing a great disservice to those who are genuinely in need of help. When the left virtue signal and shout down anyone who suggests that perhaps some of those entering our country and applying for international protection are not genuine, then you risk making people skeptical of everyone. Because the system is so broken, it has now become standard for people to just assume that everyone using the system is an economic migrant and all of the problems that that mindset brings. If it were a minority of people applying for international protection who were economic migrants, this issue would not be anywhere near as divisive as it currently is, in my opinion. But it's not a minority, it's the majority. And you don't have to believe on Taoiseach Micheál Martin. I know I certainly wouldn't automatically trust what he says, but he is backed up by the head of the Garda National Immigration Bureau in what he is saying. And if the Social Democrats or any other left parties take issue with that assertion, then they are free to counter it with facts and figures, but it doesn't seem like they have. When it comes to most things, I find myself on the left, but unfortunately, it's issues like immigration that see me left out of the left. We cannot continue on in this vein of absolutism at all costs. The fact of the matter is that the left's stance of believing that everyone who applies for asylum must be believed, and anyone who believes otherwise is a far-right racist, and the right's stance of believing that everyone who applies for asylum is a chancer, and anyone who believes otherwise is a loony liberal lefty, is toxic. The answer is in the middle. Those who are chancers must be dealt with, as they're taking time and valuable resources away from those who need it most, and those who genuinely need help must not be looked at as nothing more than scammers here to take advantage of our generosity. The system must be improved so that those who need help get it, and those who don't are returned home in both a cost and time-efficient manner. Ultimately, though, in my view, this new plan will do far more harm than good in the long run. Between creating a pull factor that will only add to the problems, and the obvious backlash it will garner from a public who are seeing more lead balloons than flying kites in the upcoming budget and wondering why even more public money is being funneled into a broken system that is already subject to profiteering at the public's expense, I can't see how the government can pretend for even a second that this is a good idea. There are so many services crying out for more investment, and at a time when, in particular, services and payments for people and children with disabilities and their carers are at the forefront of people's minds, it's hard to square the circle of throwing more good money after bad at a wholly inefficient and broken system that rewards people who shouldn't be here in the first place. So what do you think? Do you think this is a good plan? Do you think it will do as intended and help ease the backlog and thus increase efficiency in the international protection system? How do you feel about the level of payments offered? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to be notified of new content. If you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee or a super thanks, which is greatly appreciated, and a huge thank you to those that already have. You can also follow me on Twitter. Until next time, slán go fóill.